Okay, hello. So, leaky gut syndrome and autism. Okay, here's the deal with everything. There was a scientist that came up in 1998. I forgot his name. I'm bad on names. Reynolds, something like that. I don't know. But anyway, he was ridiculed by the scientific community. Well, this happened with H. pylori also. It happened with scurvy. Immediately, when a scientist comes up with something, immediately they get ridiculed, and then here's when the dance starts to happen. The pharmaceutical industry is poised to be sued and lose billions of dollars, especially because of immunizations. They put out a campaign to lie with numbers, to make studies that are false, so that this way they can discredit. And this is what political science has done all along. It's the basis of how politics works. And this is what medicine is now. It's politics. So now all of a sudden a study that's relevant all of a sudden comes up, and all of a sudden they don't want to touch it, and they just basically ridiculed the guy and discredited him, so that this way but you see, it doesn't go away. See, the truth has a way of, now more scientists are finding more information that basically exonerate the guy that said it in the first place, and this stuff has been going on forever. Okay, so this is your problem. You get conflicting information, and now you have to wonder, where's the money, or why is this person, why are these people lying, or why are these people holding back, not telling you the truth, and it goes deep. It goes into the whole idea of controlling society completely. Okay, but leaky gut syndrome. Okay, what causes autism? Okay, first of all, I'd like to back up. The diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome and autism. Here's the problem. It was made up by people. Hans Asperger recognized these traits in so many different people. But it's a fact that we have found that people with Asperger's traits also have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Almost the same symptoms. They overlap one another. So when they made these boxes up, okay, they made one for obsessive compulsive and said, well, you fit into this box. They had one for attention deficit disorder, and they fit you into that box. They wanted to put you in a box. They want to always put you in a box. Okay? And so now you go around and you say, well, I have Asperger's syndrome. And people look at you like, oh, well, that's a psychiatrist putting you in a box and putting a label on it. You're labeled, but that's a bunch of baloney, and they're right. It is. Because all those labels don't mean anything. But that doesn't mean you don't have something wrong with you, or something didn't happen. And here's the problem. The psychological community made the DSM, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. The new one's coming out, number 5. Okay? It was all a bunch of bunk to begin with, because it's not credible science. It never was. It's a big fat lie. It's the biggest lie that ever came about. But it's still behavioral science. Okay, and so basically they label behaviors, and they say that these behaviors, they don't tell you what the underlying cause for the behavior is. So now you have overlapping symptoms. I happen to have Asperger's syndrome according to the DSM-4, and I have ADHD, and I'm also compulsive and I'm obsessive. Why? Because I had to study French for like flipping hour after hour. I was looking at Monk, and I said, I'm not like Monk. People said, well, he has obsessive compulsive disorder. Well, the fact is that it's related to attention deficit disorder, which is related to autism, which is related to Asperger's syndrome. You see, so now you have a whole bunch of complicated people and professionals telling you that this is what it is because they're the gods of science, when they're a bunch of apes. Okay? So now the very major confusion happens. The person who looks at you and says the psychological community is giving you a label and they're giving you pills, is all discredited, has now basically said that there's nothing wrong with you and you look normal. But that's not the case, because people still display these symptoms, and we still have people who don't know what the hell is wrong with them. Okay, so what happened? Well, if you read into the GAPS diet, and I think it's Natasha Campbell, oh, what's her last name? See, memory lapses. Natasha Campbell, sorry. Anyway, it's the GAPS diet. And she has some excellent research that basically backs up what this other scientist said about how it's related to gut bacteria. And they don't want it to be linked back to thiomycetol or thimerosal, because that would cause a major lawsuit. And it also would discredit the medical community completely and the government. So of course they want to put up numbers and stuff, but it keeps coming out. It does. It keeps coming out. But the GAPS diet can heal that. Okay? And I'm not going to get into the diet. You can look up the GAPS diet. Never mind. I thought it was McBride. I think it is McBride. Natasha Campbell McBride. I think it is. But anyway, so what happened? Okay, the children, the spike in autism that happened in the 90s was at a time when there was high amounts of giving of thimerosal. But why did some children get autism and some children didn't? And they say, well, it's according to the genetic code, and this is another big science now, because now we're going into the seeds of everything, okay? And this science snips your genes, and actually it goes back to eugenics, and it actually goes back to probably even Hitler, because you see, this science is basically what Hitler was trying to do by breeding out, because of course Darwin said it's survival of the fittest, and so we've messed up with that, and so now we're trying to make our gene code better. It's all set up in Hitler science. So anyway, but basically, you might have had a genetic propensity to get this because of your genes, but it's not really your genes. It's actually your gut flora. You inherited it from your mother. You're supposed to get this gut flora from your mother. Okay? Now, how do you get it? Well, you swallow it while you're being born. You swallow it from the uterus in the vaginal canal as you're coming out. You swallow this stuff, it gets into your gut. And this gut flora stays with you. It's actually beneficial bacteria that's supposed to be populating your stomach like crazy, and you don't get it. And when you don't get it, your immune system is low. So now mercury also lowers your immune system. And it causes, and so mercury actually even makes it worse. And so now you're getting mercury in your body when you get thimerosal. And not only are you getting mercury, you're getting a whole bunch of small amounts of viruses and diseases that are going in your body that your body needs to fight off with a compromised immune system. And so now your immune system is compromised, and you're not given colostrum, because basically when I was a kid, people just stuck a bottle in your mouth, okay, with formula, which didn't have colostrum in it, which is another place where your immune system gets built up. Then you're given shots, and that really is what torches everything off. It just lights the gasoline on the fire. But also what happens is we were given chlorinated water. Nobody thought twice. They drank the chlorinated water, which, by the way, I did some research. I read some research where it came from wells that were contaminated with cholera. And it was in Jersey City, New Jersey, that they first started putting, as far as I know, putting chlorine in the water to kill the cholera. But when they put the chlorine in the water, they also killed the gut flora that protects your body's immune system and stops what's called leaky gut syndrome. And so all these good microflora got onto your stomach, and now you're also drinking chlorine. And also you're given antibiotics, which also compromised this whole problem, because it killed the gut flora that was in you. And this gut flora protects you from pathogens and diseases. Yeasts and overgrowths, like Candida yeast overgrowth is common with mercury toxicity. We drank out of copper pipes, and we'll put fluoride in the water, which, by the way, puts gasoline on mercury. And you think it wasn't on purpose? There's a very good possibility, because you know how much the drug industry has made because of this? Was it accidental? No one, of course they're going to cover it up. No one ever knows, okay? So that's what happened. You got these things called tight junctions inside your villi, which are the fingers that are inside your small intestine, which have little hairs on them called cilius. And these tight junctions got allergic reaction because it didn't have gut flora to start to digest things. And so when you started eating wheat and things with gluten in it, the glue and the gluten, okay, basically tied down the celiac hairs, okay, and caused an allergic reaction, an autoimmune reaction. Because the gluten started to get through the gut lining through these tight junctions because of something called zonulin. It's a zone opener. It opens up the things, the nutrients, to let them into the bloodstream. Well, it was letting the wrong things in the bloodstream, and it works its way through the blood-brain barrier into the head and caused autistic symptoms. But it didn't just cause autism. It's linked to epilepsy. It's linked to so many different things that happen because all these developmental disorders, okay, that happened. And I really think it's linked to even where the awakening was with encephalitis, and all these things got in because the body was unable to stop them. And so this is why it's all misdiagnosed, and you're all put into all these categories: ADD, obsessive compulsive, autism, Asperger's syndrome. All of these things all go together. They don't belong in a box. They do belong in the box. Mercury or leaky gut syndrome due to food allergy caused by mercury, copper, fluoride, yada, 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 yada. And they're finding that this was the cause and this is what happens, and they don't want to admit it. And so that's what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.